Hi guys, welcome to another SLTD Wrestling Roundtable podcast. We are here as always. This week we are obviously going to talk Raw on Netflix. Callum has already coined the phrase Netflix and Phil. I don't know if that's a common phrase that people are using, but we're having it. Netflix and Phil. Uh, Phil being CM Punk. Obviously, that's not like just a random. None of us.
A
Who's Phil?
random guy called Phil.
Yeah. Who's Phil? None of you is Phil. So we're going to talk that. We're going to talk bits and bobs, interesting things that have happened throughout the week, and then that'll be that. We did have a big plan last week to do all sorts, and then it just all fell apart because we talked too much. So here we are, trying to do it again. Callum, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Recording this on a Saturday morning, few hours to go until Nottingham Forest start their FA Cup campaign at home to Luton. We sit third in the Premier League table, so all is well in the world.
Nice, nice. Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, all good. I woke up a bit early this morning because Ellie's been a bit unsettled, so she's been in and out of our bed, and I managed to fall into at 5 o'clock this morning, fall into a green shirt guy hole into I can't remember what I was starting looking at. Someone said, "Who is this guy? How does he get these tickets?" And then I ended up reading like three different conspiracy theories about who he is and how he manages to get front row tickets. The most interesting one,
Okay.
which I did manage to debunk, is that he was the guy that CM Punk slapped in the crowd that one time. The
Oh,
assumption being that because he sued the company, they said, "Oh, don't sue us. We'll give you lifetime front row tickets." And he went, "Yeah, all right then."
I would 100% take that deal. Like that deal or 100. I think the thing about him is that he's always in the same place,
Yeah,
but he's got a Twitter,
I've seen his Instagram. I saw that this morning,
right? Okay, so he's
and
got a
on his
Twitter, but he's
yeah,
never anywhere. Like he's not on a podcast. He's not.
yeah. So
He's never
literally, his Instagram
playing.
is photos from shows, and it's
Right.
always the same angle. It's the angle of the apron that he takes, and then the chair that he's obviously his commemorative chair that he's got thousands of at this point. Um,
Oh,
from
I
like the
didn't.
pay, yeah,
Spot
from like
that.
the pay-per-views and stuff,
Yeah,
because he took a picture on Raw, segueing into what we're going to talk about, because he was at Raw on Netflix,
yeah,
and interestingly, and I thought this was quite a nice gesture. They did the commemorative chair for that, so it was like Raw on Netflix, first episode, blah blah blah, and there was a little sort of card on the side of it, and I managed to make out what it said, and it basically said, if you scan this QR code, courtesy of WWE, we will ship this to any address that you like,
Oh,
that's a good call.
rather than them figuring out how to take it home,
Yeah.
you know. And obviously, he'd blanked out the QR code, so I couldn't scan it and say, "Oh, I came from Oldham."
Oh, that. Yeah. Apparently, like speaking from personal experience, WWE must have a really good deal with like FedEx or something
Mm,
because they ship stuff to me that
they did.
was the shipping would have cost more than the contents of what they were shipping.
And was the box big enough to fit a folded metal chair in? Just thinking
Not
that that's all they've got in the inventory because that's
not
what they use to ship in.
yeah, not quite. It fitted through a letterbox, so no.
Oh,
But I do have the headquarters address, so I can send them things I want to. I kept a little invoice to be like, "Ooh, that's good, isn't it?"
like a brown paper bag with duct tape around it.
Yeah. No, it was a proper like well presented jiffy,
No, I
actually.
mean what you're sending back.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sending back, yeah. Yeah. I'm not sending any in that'd be weird. But yeah, I have been sent stuff from HQ.
You
Um
should send Triple H a Christmas card.
that has crossed my mind. I'll
You
be
should just send a card, normal envelope, standard stuff. Paul Levesque, do the whole thing, and then
see what happens.
if there's like a behind the scenes thing or the next 24, and you notice he's got a Christmas card on his desk.
The
Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah, the next 24, he's got a 28p card from Mazda.
Yeah.
Like that. Like it before, to be like, oh, that's right.
He's got a
Um,
Moonpig card there on the side.
yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, I might, you never know. When's his birthday? I don't know when his birthday is.
I
I'll
don't
send him
know.
a birthday card. don't know. It'll get to, I don't know if it'll get to internal mail, would it? Would it get to internal mail? Would it get that close?
Surely it would.
Not so sure.
If you went into the post office and you said, I want to send this,
Yeah.
that's going directly to them.
I need to make a card that is, as you open it, it takes a picture, and then the picture goes to somewhere. Know what I mean? Like it gets sent to, like you sync the where the picture gets sent to, and
Yeah.
it's my phone, and then my phone just pings, and it's templates like this.
Send him a confetti bomb.
Yeah.
Trying to do me work.
It's just everywhere. Like, what? Poof. Son of a bit. No, he's got an air conditioning. He might die. Like, imagine. No more on the lost.
Right, that'd be the rumor going right. It'd be like your cousin seeing the spider in his
Yeah,
hotel.
that's it. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what
ends up
happened to
like,
Triple H? Well, the rumor is he opened a confetti bomb from Liverpool.
yeah. We were like, we've leaked pictures of his unfortunate demise, and he's in the office just covered in confetti. Like something's happened, and I don't know what it is. Just like,
If it was the if it was the LimeWire days, rare CCTV footage of Triple H's death.
yeah. Like, oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to kill
I mean,
Triple H. I really like the
I mean,
guy.
I was still thinking about the green shirt guy. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if he goes to a wedding, or if he gets married himself. It's like you got the chairs
In his chair.
outside, and it's like, yeah, you're sat on the bride's side on the Battleground 2017
Yeah.
chair.
Well, interestingly, right, I will tell you this before we get into this. But so our wedding, before we had a super small wedding, right? We were planning on doing the big wedding, the big like big room, and everyone's got a table and like buy 600 chickens and that. I don't know I don't know how many people were going in the end. But
600 chickens by the sounds of things.
yeah, 600 chickens. So I'm so yeah, so we were doing it, and Rachel was like, "Is there anything you want?" Like in the thing, and I was like, "The only thing I want is big screen tellies, right? So I want to rent some big screen tellies and put like WrestleManias on, just because why wouldn't you? Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like no sound or nothing, just like two or three tellies, just dotted around the room, and it just have random wrestling on. Do you know what I mean? Just doing its thing. That's it.
Random wrestling weddings
Yeah. So
or reunions. So you got that little kid when Macho Man and Elizabeth reunited in the
yeah,
front of your
yeah, that's it.
altar. Altar? That's not even the
Billy and
right word.
Chuck in another corner.
Yeah. Just like random people from random segments and that, know what I mean? Just like, oh yeah, I've invited the guy who ran past Batista one time. Um, so the idea
That was
was,
Brock Lesnar guy, wasn't it?
was that the Brock? No, that's what he said. He says it's Brock
He
Lesnar
says
guy.
it's
It's
him. It's not him.
not him. But he's like, oh yeah, it was me wearing it. It's like, it's not. And he's not the Brock Lesnar guy anymore, is he? He's just the guy, not a Brock Lesnar guy. So I was like, big tellies to the thingy. And then Rich was like, okay, well, if we're going to do that, should we have each table as a main event? So like our table will be the WrestleMania table, and then like the like bridesmaids and groomsmen and that would be like the Royal Rumble table, and then you'd have like the know what I mean, like the important people. And I was like, yeah, but then you get like the people you have to invite who you don't want to invite on like the battleground table, and
So,
like
so me and Adam will be the Great Balls of Fire
We'd
table.
be on
yeah,
stomping grounds.
Stomping
dumping
ground.
ground table.
Capital punishment.
Yeah, one of them, like, it's just like you're gonna know you're not liked when you're on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, am I on the WrestleMania table? No, no,
No.
no, stop.
Here, here's the breaking point table of
Taboo.
people that we don't like.
Taboo Tuesday.
Yeah, that's
Just a
yeah,
random pick of people.
yeah, random. So that's what we were gonna do, but inevitably we didn't do it because they came along. But it would have been quite funny to have like,
I don't think I had anything wrestling related at my wedding now that I think
you
about
know,
it.
it was
No.
just like it would be because you'd have them like easels,
Mm.
like the picture on of like the seating plan, don't you?
Yeah,
Table
yeah.
one, table two. So I would have had like the logo of the thing and be like, you're on
Yeah.
slots. Like, you know what I mean?
Ours was films.
Films make sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense for you. Yeah, there
So the
you go.
top table was the Dark Knight.
Nice.
All my family were on the Boyhood table. And then like the guests of mine were like Jurassic Park, something else, and then Amy had like Mighty Ducks, Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Your
was.
ex-boyfriends and girlfriends were on the Wedding Crashers table.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'd do. It'd be like little, like have like something to do with an in-laws thing, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right at the back, have little fuckers, something like that. You know what I mean? Just like I hate these guys, little fuckers. Like, what was the last table you had though? What was the like? How far
Um,
go into films you like?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah,
It was yeah, the sort of theme of it was just films that we like. So I think we just sort of kept it. I think I might have had one as The Lion King.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But the
like that.
wedding that I went to recently, they did the countries that they'd visited as a couple. That was nice.
Hmm.
That's clever.
So I was sat on Italy.
Nice. Just sat on Italy.
I was sat on Italy.
Yeah. Anyway. A massive intro there, but yeah, about killing Triple H and the green. So, did you find out anything about the green shirt guy before we move on?
So the rumor is that he has a relative in the upper echelon of WWE management who gets him the ticket. But then some of the other stuff that I've heard is that he apparently just buys a ticket and will always get a front row ticket, so he's in the general place. And if it's not exactly that seat, he will go to the person, offer them some money to swap seats with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
That
And not
again,
then not react to anything.
yeah, yeah.
what's weird is, like, he's always in that seat, and that's fine. But then a front row ticket to a lot of the shows he goes, got to rack up a couple of grand.
Oh, I mean, if he's going to Mania in Vegas, it's 10 grand, isn't it?
You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
how much more money are you wanting to be offered to be like, can you move down three places, or can you?
yeah.
Because he's always dead centered in the ring. So surely you've bought that ticket knowing
And then never mind the money that he's spending on travel and
what I mean.
who is this person?
Yeah,
What does he do for a living and how can I do it?
yeah. Might work for WWE.
He might do.
Never know.
He might be the sort of senior ring crew technician who is sat there to make sure that if there is any issues with the ring, he's that close just in case.
Maybe, yeah. The way the world is at the minute and the horrificness of it all, I am going to throw it out there that the dark secret of the green shirt guy is that he's got an anti-Janelle. Know what I mean?
Well, someone did say
And that's
the
how he's
actual
getting
the
his.
actual reason is he was an intern for WWE in the 90s and Vince McMahon shat on him.
Right.
So,
Makes more
yeah.
sense. Yeah, he was the one. Yeah.
Allegedly.
That's the person he's got in the upper echelon of WWE is his sister's Janelle. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, I'll give you a brother ticket
Fuck's sake.
as well as all these horrendous things. We'll talk about that later actually because he's released a statement.
Around about the same time that Trump didn't get
Yeah.
A
sent
two for
out.
one special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, pulling it back a little bit, pulling it back to Monday. Um, thoughts on Raw? Initial like, mm. What did either of you watch it live?
No.
No.
No, I tried and failed. I'll be honest.
Got a job, man.
Yeah, off, and obviously because of the baby, and I set an alarm for 20 to 1 in the morning, and was like, I'll just see if I wake up and see if what's going on. When the alarm went off, I'd already been awake 2 hours. With Leo, and it went off, and I was like, "Fuck off!" Like literally, that was it. I didn't even snooze it. I was just like, "Fuck off!" Like I am going to sleep as soon as humanly possible. I am not sitting here watching this. Um. So yeah, my argument kind of was like, I want to see the opener, but I knew it when I watched the opening thing with the curtains and stuff like, you know, I would have. I was like, I was in. Like I knew I would have been. That was impressive.
That was very
Mm.
good, the way that they did that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been talking about that opening package and referring to it as like an industry busting, myth busting type package because obviously they mentioned things like heel and face and some of what we do is scripted and some of what we do is this and all that kind of stuff. And then the assumption that I feel like that people are talking around it and going, or you can imagine that quite a lot of people have had an issue with this. I think it's quite brave to do something like that, in
Mm,
that I feel like the crowd generally, maybe not the younger crowd, the younger audience, we've moved away from this idea of trying to keep everything in kayfabe, trying to keep everything sort of on the straight and narrow. And I think actually we've now evolved to a point where we know that, Finn Balor and Damien Priest are in a feud together. But we also know that that doesn't mean that behind the scenes they're not going to talk to each other,
Yeah.
that they're going to avoid each other, that they're not maybe even going to ride with each other. So I think it's almost like an acknowledgement of we know the fans have moved on, we know the sort of the consensus has moved on, but you all enjoy it as much as you did, if not even more than you have
mm,
done, just by knowing this stuff. And I think that sort of taking that on board and knowing about it is the right way to go.
Yeah. I I would say that there's a huge part of me that really, really misses kayfabe. Like it really does. Like and I never grew up in the kayfabe era, really. Like the attitude era was kind of more where I kind of found my stride. I think when I was a kid, I didn't really know if it was, and it was never a thing where it's like there was never a moment in my life where it was like, oh my God, this is fake. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think I ever had that that sort of breaking of kayfabe situation. I just kind of like grew up knowing what was what, or I didn't know, and then when I was old enough, I was like, oh right, okay. But I would have liked to be more in a kayfabe situation and understanding what it was and like believing it and like even the same thing where it's like I would have loved to grow up on like territories and stuff like that. Like these parts of me that's like loves all that. But I think with them actively calling this the Netflix era and them actively like saying this is going to be different, if you like, doing that is quite a bold thing. But then you've got to think, so if you've got fans, I think this is it. My head went to when they were talking about when that like saying it's like industry busting and all stuff like that. You've got to think people have seen wrestling, like the casual fan has seen it sporadically. Like, do you know
mm,
what I mean? Like here and there, they know what it is, blah blah blah, all that stuff, and that's fine. If you're a diehard wrestling fan, you had the network, so you knew through and through with all the 24s and the behind the scenes and all stuff like that. You knew that it was quote unquote fake. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Which
mm.
I think is the worst word to describe it. But anyway, I think the idea now is because it's Netflix, potentially you could get people who are not watching Raw, SmackDown, NXT, any main event, anything like that, but a Netflix documentary will come out on whatever they want to put a documentary out on, and that'll break the cycle anyway of people being like, "Oh Jesus Christ, like this is all scripted and all thing." Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think
Mm.
that in the red, the kind of like that's a prerequisite of we're going into an era now where people are essentially not going to watch the product, but people who want to watch a documentary because it'll be like presented as something to watch because you don't have to be a wrestling fan. Like the McMahon documentary, you
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
don't have to be a wrestling fan to watch the McMahon documentary. So there's potential that people are going to be watching stuff about wrestling but not watch wrestling.
Yeah.
Like,
If WWE hadn't had already done The Undertaker's Last Ride and we're doing it now, that'd be in the top 10 shows on Netflix.
yes,
Yeah.
People are going to watch that because even the casual fan who has seen that WWE have gone on to Netflix and aren't necessarily going to go, oh, I'm going to start watching wrestling again, but then see a documentary about The Undertaker, they're going to go, oh, I remember watching The Undertaker as a kid. I want to watch that. Yeah.
Mm.
that's it. So I think that, but the way it was done and the way to like Triple H narrating it and all stuff like that, and I think the joke that it's like Triple H is like it's not about me, but the moment it's about him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was like the last person shown on an advert when Raw was moving to Netflix. So it was a
Like,
bit of a giveaway. I mean,
yeah,
I quite liked how they sort of acknowledged wrestlers that are no longer either alive or either in the company. Because I remember a lot in the past when they've had, Raw 25s or Raw 30s and just, like just basically the anniversary specials, where it's like 2017 or 18, whenever it was Raw 25. They may have shown like CM Punk's face once, but they would do their best not to refer to people that were like not even in the company. Whereas on like this whole package, they like mentioned like Jericho's debut, and it's like he's a guy who currently wrestles for a different promotion, and yet because of how important he was for your company during a certain era, it's right to mention him. Like they showed like the Festival of Friendship stuff, I think, within like that opening like monologue
But they
that they
showed
had.
shield stuff as well.
Exactly. It's like these are big moments. I mean, we're going to get onto someone who cuts an awful promo, rightfully so, gets booed. Who, to be fair, has no real history on Raw, as far as I'm concerned. Like he is far more significant to other shows under the WWF WWE banner, and yet he was on here, and I can't really think, aside from this moment, I can't think of another moment that he has that is as significant. But it was great to see like 60, 70 years ago, this is what wrestling was and where we've come to now. Yeah, I love the line of whilst like the phones have got smaller, or whilst cameras have got smaller, we have got bigger. And I just think, how great is that to think about? Like they showed like the TVs that people were watching wrestling on 60, 70 years ago. And now 6 decades later, it is on a streaming service. Yeah, it's gone from being seen by a few hundred people to being shown around the whole world.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
like
thing is that, like,
it's mental. Like
yeah,
I think about it, like when I started watching, obviously a little bit after than both of you, I was still like putting it on record on a VCR player.
yeah.
The first few years of me watching Raw, I mean, at first I didn't even know that Raw was shown live on a Monday night. I just assumed Raw was like this hour, maybe 2 hour program shown on a Friday morning between 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It was shown on one of the Sky Sports channels. I was often late for primary school because I was catching up on Raw that I could have been recording a few nights before. And when I finally found out that it was shown live, okay, put it on the video. Give it about a year or two, you get it on your Skybox. Now you get it on it. You could get it on an app with TNT. Now all of a sudden it's on Netflix. And it's like this morning I woke up at 6 a.m. and I thought, well, I need to be up in about an hour and a half, 2 hours anyway. I just put SmackDown on. Like only 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was still going downstairs putting it on the Skybox.
Yeah.
Like there was times where I wouldn't even record SmackDown on Raw in the last few weeks because I just forget. All of a sudden, I can still stay in bed, be very lazy, pick up my PlayStation controller, press 2 or 3 buttons, and there it is. I
Well,
mean, it's
you can watch it on
evolved.
your
Like
phone. You can get
exactly.
Netflix on your phone. Like you could watch SmackDown on your phone if you wanted to.
Like think about the evolution just like the last few weeks. Think about it in like the last like 20, 30 years. Like you were watching like Royal Rumble 2001 on Channel 4. So the way that wrestling is viewed now is incredible. So I don't mind the way that perhaps that opening promo was treated, because there's no difference to watching Squid Game on Netflix to watching WWE on Netflix. Well, it's the number one show in the UK, Raw, for this week. So it shows
like
how
5 million, didn't they, or something like that?
like was that like for like a live audience?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they accumulate how many people have then caught up with it afterwards as well.
Yeah, because obviously, like think about like Gavin and Stacey, they spoke about having 12 people, 12 million people
On the island of Barry.
on the island of Barry, or 12 people watching Gavin and
Just
Stacey.
the people in the show, just
Yeah.
watching.
But not even
Like
all of them.
over like 12 million watch the show, but then when you've added all like the catch-up stuff, it's gone up to 18 or 19 million. And it's like, I wonder what that is now for Raw, because unless you're a diehard fan, it's the old thing of The Simpsons. Why is anyone up at 3 a.m.? Well, the unemployed, the drunks, and the loners. So they were the only people that were probably watching Raw live on Monday night in the UK. Um, I'm in two of those brackets. Um, but it'd be really interesting to know how many people have gone back to watch it, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night when they got back from work, because that's for the majority of people in the UK and around Europe is the only viable alternative.
Yeah. I
Well,
watched
it's
it.
like
I watched the
sorry,
Tuesday
sorry.
one, like, yeah. But it's interesting. You say, right, so this is how long I've been a wrestling fan. You say about like I didn't even know Raw was live. I watched Raw when it wasn't live. So there was a point on Sky, not even really early on,
Mm,
when it was on like a Friday night or a Thursday
mm.
And
night.
it was never shown live.
No,
Yeah.
never ever shown live. And I remember getting Sky and paying for it myself because it was live.
Mm,
So I was I'd like that's a lot. That's how old I am,
mm.
Like
basically.
2005, 2006, actually, it's
Yeah,
probably 2005 time, 2004 maybe, where it
Mm,
was like they're gonna start showing it as live at 1 o'clock in
yeah,
the morning. And
mm.
I remember like whenever I was off school, I would stay up and just do the episode because it was like, well, yeah, of course I will, you know.
Yeah.
And then if we had a spare VHS, we'd record it,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah.
before you could just have a recording box.
Well, I
Uh,
used to do. I used to like tape trade in school.
Mm,
I remember trading tapes in school, and I remember like there was like four or five of us. And like we used to trade Raws and SmackDowns and stuff like that, and
mm,
like main events, and because obviously you had to buy the main event, so it was like 15 quid.
mm,
So the way we did it was we'd all like we'd kind of be like, well, I'll buy this one, you buy the next one,
mm.
type thing. So it was like we dingied it
yeah,
around. And I
Yeah.
remember the tape. I remember someone taping Over the Edge with Owen, and I remember um whatever happened,
Mm,
someone taped it, someone lent it, and then whoever lent it, something went wrong with the tape or whatever it was. So like no one ever got to see it, and everyone hated this kid because of it, because obviously of what had happened and us
yeah.
being like us being kids, you're obviously like, well, I want to see this, don't I? They're not going
Yeah.
to show this again. So you wanted to see it live, and yeah, it took well, I don't think I've ever actually properly seen what happened as it was recorded
No.
because I don't think that recording really exists.
well, no, they kind of cut away really quick, didn't
They
they?
sort of edited it off in the network, haven't they? Where they've got like the Jeff Jarrett promo,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then the next thing you see is Jim Ross sort of making the announcement about
yeah.
something has happened
So
tonight.
yeah,
And
I remember that, like obviously like tape trading and stuff, which is just madness. But the idea of people doing that with like not I suppose not tapes, but um like territory stuff where it's like, well, you watch something from here and I'll watch something from there, and then you swap it. And like I love all that, but
mm,
obviously it's nice now that you don't have to do that. It's like
mm,
I have said a few times, I've paid for BT Sport, but still like got Raw through ill-gotten gains because I
mm,
can't deal with the adverts. So
yeah,
that's what I used to do. But now, even Netflix, they cut everything out. So it's like
mm,
even the adverts and stuff like that. Like I watched NXT the other day, they cut everything out. Like
yeah.
mm,
that, the subtitles, the sound, and bits of what The Rock says are just completely gone at that end promo on NXT.
mm.
Like that
It was
doesn't.
really it was strange on Raw. Like you have Michael Cole talking, and then all of a sudden he cut out, and
Yeah,
apparently that was because he was promoting like a brand. So it's probably like next up on Raw, we've got CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, sponsored by.
yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
What did you think of the ring apron, by the way?
It didn't bother me,
No,
It's
to be
fine.
honest.
it,
Like after a while, you sort of get used to it, don't you? And it's not really the thing that you're looking at.
no,
Um, but like just to go back a little bit, the like the power of Netflix and stuff, like just it being on the home page is
Mm,
such a sort of like everyone is seeing that.
yeah,
Like Ruby clocked that it was there because she watches stuff on Netflix, and then like on the Tuesday I'd gone into work. And one of the lads that I teach in year 12, he was like, "Oh, Adam, I'm tired." I was like, "Why? What's up?" And he went, "Because I stayed up till like 4 to watch Raw." And then a girl who doesn't watch wrestling heard our conversation and said, "Oh, did you stay up to watch Raw then? Because it was on Netflix, weren't it?" And it's like
Yeah.
she only knows that because she's gone through it or past it to watch something else. But
Yeah.
Mm.
even just that, that's like the biggest form of advertising that you could do, and it's getting it out there and it's doing all that kind of stuff. In terms of the presentation, as a pure sort of high quality snob, this is the best wrestling has looked.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I cannot believe that we have made the jump from network to Netflix and a show that was just on live stream looks as good as it does. Because I
Yeah.
was so used to watching pay-per-views back the next morning with it being not pixelated, but it definitely didn't look at least like 1080p or whatever.
Mm.
This looks like 4K.
Yeah.
And I
I
don't
think.
Yeah.
think it is, but I think the cameras that they must be using,
Mm.
and then just the quality of it, it looks fantastic. It looks stunning. And then like even the presentation on Raw, where obviously it was more of an arena thing with the sort of the screen above the ring,
Mm.
and the lights on in the near the chairs and the crowd and stuff, and then the new announce table. It looked
Mm.
really good. It looked really fine, really polished, and
Yeah.
I loved it.
Also, like the way that interviews are done. So, like the Jackie Redmond stuff that she did with New Day,
Yeah,
Miz and
yeah.
Cross, the way that that is sort of now shot. Because usually you have just it being backstage with Raw, like a Raw sign in the background. Even the stuff like with Kathy Kelly,
Mm.
backstage, just a different feel to it. It adds so much more of like a sports presentation to it.
It
Well,
was
that
quite old school doing it in front of
Yeah.
the
that
crowd.
side of it, where they're like above, where they're in the crowd, so they must be in the box, mustn't they?
Mm.
Where
Yeah.
that's where, if you watch like the press conferences or the
Mm.
post show, a lot of that happens there in the same sort of.
Yeah.
So I think they've like maneuvered that to be part of the show, which is, I always think it's a good. It's always good when it's like a bit different.
Mm.
It's a bit, you know
just
what I
just like
mean?
having like the fans in the background.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
adds so much
like
more. You sort of like have New Day walk across and people boo and cheer them. It's
yeah,
so much better than having the. Sometimes you're not whether sure whether it is actually booing either. So like if you were having it backstage, it could just be like just piped in boos.
Mm.
When you could see the fans react to everything that they were saying, it added far more.
yeah, definitely. And I think that like using the drones as well was a big thing, and like obviously everything has changed about the presentation. I think like they've kind of like worked out the kinks throughout the last 12 months of
Mm.
certain things and being like, okay, we can really use this, we can really do this, we can really do that, and all that's the stuff that you're like, that's boss. Like that's
Mm.
what is super interesting about like the difference and the just the different look, because I feel like every wrestling show essentially has the same look. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like the hard cam and the ring, and which isn't bad. They always have the ramp on a particular side, and it's this and
Mm.
that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just every wrestling company looks the same in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looked different, even though it was the same essentially. It just
Mm.
looked different. It looked better. It looked more, even like having a smaller stage, so you had like people behind. Um, I don't know if that was purely because of it being the dome.
Mm.
Possibly.
They've had it for a few shows, few of like the PLEs, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Where they've sort of trying to think which it was one of the Rumbles where was it Edge's the one where Edge returned? No, he ran out
yeah,
through the
yeah,
side.
yeah,
There was a Rumble where you had like the fans behind them,
No,
yeah,
it was that Rumble as well because all the ones that have been in baseball
baseball
stadium,
stadiums. That's
they
right.
yeah,
come out from like it's the dugout in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
And like I think the current setup, or at least the setup that we saw from Raw on Monday, I think is a perfect marry between the huge screens that they used to have,
Mm.
and then the really tiny, what I would refer to as disappointing setups that they have for Royal Rumbles, where
Mm.
I think when it's so small, it takes away from it because I love a bit of a Tron. But
yeah,
then
Mm.
when it's huge, you're like, do we really need it? Like, do you
yeah,
remember the one that went, it was before COVID, it was that big, it came down and it sort of sloped as well.
Oh, it's like wasn't it Owens that sort of
Owens to
ran
run
up
up
Oh,
it
it,
and
yeah,
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like, I remember looking at that and thinking, that thing's bloody massive.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we don't need something that big. But
yeah,
then this, it was like, it's big enough for you to see like associated graphics and assets to do with the person who's coming
Mm.
out, but then it adds that extra feeling of there are literally people behind the stage as well.
yeah.
Like it,
Mm.
it was, it felt so like big. the whole thing.
I think
Um,
I don't know what ratings does Raw usually do? It doesn't usually do 5 mil, does it?
No,
no, like I think
it's lucky to get 2 million.
Yeah.
yeah, but then
And it depends on what channel it's on as well, because
yeah,
obviously we're not really speaking from much knowledge on many subjects, as you'll find out later on in the podcast. But obviously, it depends how many houses have got Fox, how many houses have got the
Yeah.
USA Network. It's probably a bit like here, where let's say if Raw was shown on Sky and SmackDown was shown on TNT,
Mm.
I would imagine more people would probably watch Raw than
Yeah.
SmackDown because of Sky being far more in people's households than TNT is.
Yeah. 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 See,
yeah,
this
but
is the
then
thing.
like even like my TV has a Netflix button on the remote.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's
you
one
know,
of them arguments where it's the same argument that I had with TNA back in the day and AEW now is like when TNA was on like free TV.
yeah,
Mm.
The TNA over here was on like Challenge or whatever it was.
Yeah.
TWC wrestling channel.
Well, yeah, but then
Uh,
it was on Challenge and HBO
Yeah,
else and,
yeah. Yeah.
and now
Bullseye on after it.
yeah. So but now you've got like AEW's massive in the UK because anyone if you're a wrestling fan and you can't afford Sky, like you can get it on Freeview. So
hmm
Mm.
so it's like it's massive. It feels bigger because everyone's like, "Oh, what's TNA?" And it's like, "Well, of course you do because you can watch it on Freeview." But now,
Mm.
who hasn't? 80% of the world has got Netflix. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
To say that this week I have managed to watch wrestling, the Jerry Springer documentary, and the first episode of Squid Game all on the same platform. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I don't watch NXT, and I watched NXT this week.
I watched the first match from NXT
Yeah,
yesterday.
I was
Yeah.
just like, "Well, it's
And
there."
then I watched a little bit of SmackDown this morning. So
Mm.
I always kind of like miss SmackDown and have to catch up.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now because it's so easy, I probably will just I'll be sound watching SmackDown. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, even when you were saying about presentation and like the thingy as well, I watched the Ravens game on Christmas Day,
Mm.
when they had NFL on Christmas Day,
Mm.
and
Mm.
there were wrestlers there. So Liv Morgan was there, um, and she did a little interview and all power to her because she's a Packers fan. Um, but she was there, so she watched the shit game, considering. And every time there was adverts, it was always adverts for Netflix or
Yeah.
Yeah.
adverts for random things. Um, every time there was an advert, there was something to do with well, not every time, but a lot of the times there was something
Yeah.
about being
Yeah.
on Netflix. So they have pushed it a lot.
hmm
And as I say, to have it on the main thing and like even when I go like we've got other profiles and when you go on mine before Raw was on Netflix, that was always the picture
Yeah.
of like to
Yes.
be like
Yeah.
this,
That was the same for us.
you know what I
But it's
mean?
like it's mental. Like obviously, if you go on like a program, you sort of flick through, and if you
Yeah,
land on Friends, they'll show you like the opening scene from the Friends
yeah,
episode. If you go on Raw, it may start with either Triple H or The Rock. And I just think of someone who perhaps isn't a wrestling fan, but they're just flicking through Netflix and they see someone that they know from a film. It's like, I recognize him.
yeah,
Mm.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. They've got
But
like a trailer. If you look, so if you leave it on,
Yeah.
then
yeah.
the trailer starts and it's literally a wrestling trailer that's like a minute long, and
Mm.
it does look cool. Like even if you weren't a fan, I think you'd be like, oh, what the hell? Like,
Well, Matthew Gregg, who does Botchamania and does the Cultaholic podcast and stuff, he said on the podcast this week that he has a friend who hasn't watched wrestling in a while, and when it was on Netflix, his friend sort of turned around to him and he went, "Oh yeah, I've started WrestleMania." And he said, "What do you mean you've started WrestleMania?" He went, "Well, it's on there as like a season, so I'm starting WrestleMania 1." And
that's
it's
mad.
like people are
Yeah.
going to it going
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"All right, there's 40 episodes of this thing, so I'll start
Yeah.
with episode
I'll
1."
start watching episode 1. That's mad. I didn't know that was a thing. I might do that. Let's do it. Yeah. You wouldn't have seen this, Adam, but we were talking WrestleMania in the group, and I propositioned WrestleMania 1 being an episode of the of the podcast, and Callum was less than impressed that I mentioned.
No one got back to my question. Were Mueller and May Young on the show?
I know I only seen them the day after, and there was so many messages. I was just like, I don't think they are, to be honest. But yeah, I was like, that's quite funny watching WrestleMania 1. But it's one of them where it's like it'll be interesting to see how it works with certain things that we do throughout the year
Mm,
because the we used to have such an easy access to like so many matches and so
Yeah.
many different things
mm,
that it might make it a little bit more difficult now. But I'm interested to see how it all
mm,
falls, how it all things. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So,
yeah.
but yeah, there you go. So yeah, as a whole show, did you think it was a good show?
Again, to mention Cultaholic, because what I think it might have been Ross that referred to it like this. He said it wasn't necessarily the typical episode of Raw that you would get week to week. In that
Mm,
obviously it was trying to do a couple of different things. It was maintaining storylines and wrapping some up, but then
Yeah.
it was trying to attract a new audience at the same time. So like the Rock stuff, the Cena stuff, the Hogan stuff, like that was all trying to sort of buy in the audience. But then
the
like off
rocket
the
scene stuff
no,
was.
no, yeah, off the top of my head, like the matches that was there were only three matches on the show.
Four, four.
So it was Jay and Drew, it was Punk and Rollins, and it was Roman and Solo. What was the fourth?
Rhea and Liv.
Live.
Oh, of course, yeah, sorry. So like again, the Rhea and Liv one wrapped up their story.
Yeah.
Roman and Solo seems to be moving that to one side for a while. Punk and Seth possibly not wrapping it up, but it was the one that like everyone was sort of going to. Um, and it was a good sort of setup for what's about to happen, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And then even the idea of like I'm so glad that they did plug Dakota and Lyra for next week.
Mhm.
Mm.
Because I mean that'll be a very good match.
Yeah.
Do you reckon it's Dakota?
Best that be.
Do you reckon
Yeah. I will rage.
Captain Kai?
Oh my God. Like I like Lara Valkyria, but
If they've given Chelsea her flowers with the US title, you've got to give
Mm.
Dakota her flowers with the
gotta be
IC.
Dakota. Like it's gotta be. Like
I mean, you could go the Dakota route, and then if Bailey is transferring over to Raw, because we saw her in a backstage segment with Pierce,
yes.
although I'm very aware that she won a number one contenders match on SmackDown, um, you could go the route of Bailey versus Io versus Dakota at Mania
Mm,
for the women's IC. But then I
that
think if Lyra wins, and do you go the route of Lyra versus Becky Lynch at
Yeah.
WrestleMania?
What is that light on your face? Like why have you just got a
My
look?
face. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
he's in a
I've
film
got
noir.
I've got the blind pulled down, and yeah, there's not a lot of brightness coming
I
through.
was gonna
I
say
mean,
you just got
I mean,
one
let's
light
be let's
across
be
your mouth.
frank. When I'm
Like
on every week, there's not a lot of brightness anyway. So
it's just one little like to be fair, I can't talk. I've got a whole side of my face that isn't on here, so whatever.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think you're right in it. Like it wasn't the typical show. Like it wasn't. Um, yeah, I think Belts by Dan was like he was on Twitter and he came out and was just kind of like, "This show's not for us. Like this show isn't
mm.
for like diehard wrestling fans. Like
Yeah,
don't."
It,
Like don't get this. No, I don't think he said don't get discouraged, but it's kind of like our time's up. Like you've got to change the way you're looking at it, and it's one of them where it's like I half agree, but then you've got to like move with the times as well as a fan.
yeah,
I feel like
I mean I don't agree with that because I think they are going to get back to sort of business as usual next week.
mm.
I didn't
In
know. I
that,
think they will. Yeah, I just feel like it's changed. Like the era has changed.
hmm
So
Yeah,
like we've all got our favorite era. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not now. No one right now is like, my favorite is the Netflix era.
Mm.
I love it. It's amazing.
mm.
Like, that's not a thing. Everyone's got their own era that they grew up on and they love and they'll go back to, and they've got their favorite wrestlers from yesteryear. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
like, I, I love looking at different types and like eras of wrestling to be like, well, this is quite interesting, and that's different and all that stuff. Um, But I feel like it it's one of them where it has changed, but it's like not to the point where you're like, this is unrecognizable.
Mm.
I feel like that's the thing because
Yeah.
the last. So say what I don't know what the last era would have been. Is it still like the reality era,
They had PG, didn't they? And then
PG era? I suppose.
Yeah.
probably reality, yeah.
I would say reality era was probably when like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram came
Yeah,
about.
Mm.
one week they were on Tout, and then they were on
They're,
Periscope, and
they're
then
Charlie Sheen promoting it on tout.
Yeah.
yeah.
SLTD are on tout stuff anyway.
Still, must be
Just
the only channel that is.
search SL. I don't even know what tout to think. I don't think it's still a thing, is
I
it?
mean, WWE invested in it, didn't they? That's why they were
Yeah.
pushing it so hard.
Let me see if I can go. Let me see if tout's on the
You're not
actual.
going to be able to get onto Tout.
Let me just see if
That
it's on
thing's
the
gone. That
actual.
it's gone the way of Vine. You'll get
It'll get
redirected to
fine,
TikTok.
surely. You know what I mean? I just spell it.
TOUT.
Tout.
Oh, he's actually put himself on Talk to teach a platform.
No, it's YouTube. Nah, shocking.
Ah,
Oh, it's not an app anymore.
No,
keep the
Gutted,
memories alive.
gutted.
gutted.
He's alive. These videos of like us at shows, like they were only 15 seconds long. That was the original short. 15 seconds. Like that's all you got to
I'm
do.
here, bum.
Have to talk fast. Get here, get there, do this, do that. You know what I mean?
Kids messing each other. Where are you?
15 seconds, man. Hang on.
It's like the phone a friend question on who wants to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they go, "Oh,
Oh,
I'm not
Can you
sure.
just repeat them,
Can you
please?
repeat the
Oh.
question?
Well, I think
No, I
it's
can't, Jeff.
I think it might be.
32 grand, Jeff. Come on.
well, whoever Marketo was,
Mark Marketo.
Marketo, they purchased out for $30 million plus and
Bad
earned
investment.
$20 million. $30 million, man. What the hell? Anyway, sorry, I'm just. Yeah, you can still get it on Google Play. Oh, no, you can't.
So I was told yesterday that I may have thrown £1 million away.
Throwing £1 million away.
Yeah. So I was talking to a couple of students about Pokemon cards, right?
Yeah. Don't
And I
you
said,
dare.
"Oh no, 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 right." So when I want to say I was about 8, right? I entered this competition and I won. You know, in the shops how they'd sell the little packets.
Yeah.
I won the box that the little packets came in, right? So it had the full thing in, and I was unwrapping them, doing all that kind of stuff. 2 shiny Charizards, right? Now, apparently, because they were first run, they are now worth, if they are graded 10, they're worth 540 grand each. And they were like, "Well, where are they? Where do you think they are?" I said, "I don't know. I ain't got a clue. My mum probably threw them away. I probably threw them away.
They're in my jean pocket.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you alive? Why?
I mean, I'm hopeful that, like, when I'm 40 or, again, touch
If
wood
I'm
that this isn't
40.
happening anytime soon. When, like, my mum dies and I have to go through her stuff, that in a box I just find the folder that's got them in.
Me too. I hope that's a thing. Yeah.
Well, that's not fair. Let Adam have a look first. Don't just like run round to Adam's
All right,
mum's
yeah.
house.
I'll befriend your mum. Apparently, she's missing a son, so
Yeah.
I'll.
She said in her will that she's gonna give me a Charizard card.
Yeah.
Well, my mum's currently sat on first edition Harry Potters.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I said that to her. I think I clocked that like they were quite expensive or they were going for a lot of money,
Yeah.
and we went round once and we sort of looked at what she had, and she's got some first editions.
Ooh.
Mm.
I've got comics that are
That's
worth.
my inheritance.
Yeah. I've got. I've got a particular Spider-Man comic
Mm.
that is unopened that has got artwork in it that about 3 years ago went for 37 grand.
Bloody hell!
Yeah.
You're biding your time.
Yeah.
Bide your time.
I don't think I've got anything that's worth.
Yeah.
That
No.
clock.
CM Punk Best in the World Blu-ray.
That class. That class. Is it?
To be fair, my Dark Knight one might end up going for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Me,
I've got like a million comics. Like some of them are worth something. That's
like,
good.
yeah, right. I've not opened the stuff that's inside it, so that everything's still,
Snazzy, innit?
eh.
Like that. We're going off topic here.
We're going off
Anyways,
topic. I don't really know how we've gone from talking about production levels to
Yeah,
The Dark Knight
I was looking at Tout, expecting you to talk about Raw, and you just
about.
oh
and was
shit,
like, "Oh, let's talk about
it's
random
not
things."
worth it then anymore. Oof.
Um,
But you're talking about sort of it feeling different, perhaps to the fans that have been watching for a long time. I think in a way it was used almost as like a not as a reintroduction, but an introduction to the new audience that Netflix will bring. And I
yes.
think if I was surprised by The Rock's promo, I did want him to go full sort of final boss.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that he walked out at the end of the match between Roman and Solo was like, "This is it. We're going to get it. We're going to get it," and we didn't. But I think he was more used as a I'm the head of this new board.
Yes.
And for fans of maybe 10, 15 years ago who saw me come back to do these one off appearances and haven't seen my final bus stuff, might be confused if I walk out and start talking trash about the champion, start
Yes.
talking trash about my cousin Roman Reigns, and talk about Fruity Pebbles John Cena.
Mm.
They would rather me be the company guy. This is what we're doing. Because let's face it, in the past, it'll be someone else opening the show,
Mm.
um, speaking like that and saying, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw. I am rah
Yeah.
rah rah McMahon." And I think it was good that it was The Rock rather than that other person.
It's quite
Um,
interesting to see who's going to open next week.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Everyone's like, when I said earlier on about like, oh, it's all about Triple H, and he's like, oh, it's not about me, stuff like that. But then at the same time, I feel like it's one of them where if he's the one who opens the show, then there isn't a thing where it's like the first net. He had to be the person to open the first Netflix show because
mm,
who do you give that to? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was a bit shocked, even though obviously I will understand why they did it. The heel comes out first, blah blah blah. I was a bit shocked that the first match on the first show, it was Solo who came out, not Reigns.
yeah,
mm,
I
yeah,
and I understand what it is. The heel comes out first, and then the face gets the big pop. It's fine. I get all. I understand all that. But then at the same time, it's like surely the first person to come out who is well, essentially it's The Rock, I suppose. But the first person to come out to wrestle, I thought they would have give that to Reigns. But
mm,
Well, the other puzzling one for me now that I think about it, but I think this might dictate possible brand changes that are coming.
yeah,
Didn't even have Gunther on the show anymore.
no,
they did like a promo, didn't he?
Yeah, but
yeah,
then that does make me think that like, are they going to move the world title to SmackDown and move Cody to Raw?
Mm,
potentially, yeah,
Because
yeah,
then if you're having Cena appear on Raw,
yeah. I know they want Cody
Cena's
on Raw.
Cena's winning the Rumble.
mm.
If you listen to us, he is.
What I mean,
If you
let's
listen to
face it as
him,
well.
Listen to him.
One of, if not the most star-studded Rumble that we have had in a very, very long time, this is going
Yeah,
to be.
100%.
yeah.
Even with just the fact that Cena, Reigns, and Punk have all declared for it.
Mm,
Like,
Mm.
Rollins is going to be in there,
yeah.
I mean, that's
Priest,
your final
Balor.
four, isn't it? Your final
Mm,
four: Cena, Punk, Rollins, Reigns.
I would like to do something for the Rumble. I'll be honest with you. Like pulling a curtain back. I would like to do something. We as a collective, I would like to do something, but we'll
Mm,
talk about that
okay.
outside the
okay.
line.
Rock, paper, scissors, free gets a spot.
Okay. All right.
Callum's in.
That'll do it.
Callum and CM Punk 1 and 2.
I just did like that. Was it Savage that just jumped out the ring? Who
Yeah,
was it
he's
that jumped
actually
out the ring of a
cracking, yeah.
rumble?
Standoff in the ring. I
To be
wanted this
fair,
for you.
so we're doing a Rumble quiz coming up, and I was looking at like stuff that I've wrote in the past and to get like thingies, and there's so many people who've just fell out the ring who weren't meant to fall out the ring. Like there's so many people who are just like, whoops, like
Accidentally.
I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, Austin being one of them.
And then he
Yeah.
won.
Alex Riley.
I was going to say Alex Riley being the other one, yeah, the other big one, and yeah, Cena just being like, "What do we do now? What are we doing?" Anyway, so yeah, what did you think of Rhea winning the title back?
Thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Is that what you put on your predictions?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I
interesting.
felt like I cheated a little bit on my returns one because I literally put John Cena, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and somebody else.
Well,
I
I
put
didn't
Becky
even think of
Lynch
that.
down as well.
And the only person I was like, well, The Rock, because he's announced this, so I'll have him, right? And then, so if anyone doesn't know who's listening, right, uh, SLTD, that's us, run a predictions league. It's ending next month, but it's starting again in for the Royal Rumble. So if you want to get on it, go to sltdwrestling.com. But the returns, I was like, I don't even does it count if you say Hulk Hogan? Because what the? And then I was like, well, I mean, Becky or Charlotte have got to be there. That didn't happen. And then I was like, I don't know. And then I panicked because I needed five. And was like, Lesnar then? Sad? I was just like, I know he's not coming.
Yokozuna. Oh no, wait, it's not in Saudi.
I was
Tell them
like,
why I think I put the Dudley Boys.
oh, right, yeah, okay. All
Yeah.
right. See, that would have made sense, but yeah, I don't know,
Mm.
whatever. So, I don't think many people got many points for that one, but we'll find out today because it's Rachel's collating as we speak, the points. So, yeah, interesting stuff. But I will say this, um, the reason we got a Brucey bonus round is because someone emailed and said, hey, are we doing a Netflix one of these? Because like I'm a big fan and I'm proper excited for the show. And I was like, yeah, yeah, we are.
You
Like
ask for it, you get it.
that's what I
Was,
said. So as
was
with
it
everything,
Genital Walks by any chance? That emailed over.
no actual real life person.
Mike Oxlong.
Um, so yeah, he was like, "Can you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he said, when I did it, and I sent it out, he sent me a message back, like an email back, and was like, so nice. I was like, I can't believe you've done this for me. That's amazing. Like, it's so good. Like, the whole family love playing this game. Like, blah, 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 all that. I was just like, well, it's worth it.
That's nice.
It's worth it. It's nice to get a
Mm,
bit of excitement from people.
mm.
But yeah, I do enjoy the Predictions League. We should talk about it more on the show, to be fair. Like,
Well, when we do the Rumble stuff, we'll start. Make sure you get your picks in, and yeah.
Plugging it and
yeah, we'll have two.
yeah.
Can we talk about the blonde-haired, mustachioed elephant in the room before we?
Yes, if you like. Right.
He's a knob, isn't he?
I am gonna right. So okay. So the Hulk Hogan thing. I'm gonna say this right that um, Hulk Hogan's become a bit of a parody of himself. Let's be honest, right? And I think the only reason he was there is because WWE announced that they bought the majority share of Real American Beer, which I didn't even know was a thing.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Didn't
No.
even know we had a beer. But anyway, so there's that. So what I think straight off the bat, he wasn't really there to do anything for anyone except himself. And I think that was a poor thing
Mm,
he did.
yeah.
Um, I am gonna leave it there for a minute because I know Callum is itching to say bad things. So I'm just gonna take a step back and Callum, what did you think of Hulk Hogan being on Raw?
Before I talk about Hulk Hogan,
Yeah,
I want to address The Undertaker.
okay.
Obviously, the last few months, Undertaker has also been quite outspoken with his political opinions on the incoming president of the United States and his support for Trump. Hulk Hogan also appeared at Trump rallies and, supports Trump. What we saw on Monday night wasn't, in my opinion, politically motivated. Yeah, because Undertaker came out as American Badass and got cheered.
Hmm.
If it was a case of it being primarily Democratic support in the crowd. Undertaker also possibly would have been booed because of what he has said in the last few months regarding Trump. Instead, what we saw was a man who 10 years ago, was rightfully so fired from the company for previous comments that he's made about a person's colour. And deservedly so, he got fired, and he should never have been brought back because, as far as I am concerned, I don't believe he apologised in the correct manner. It's been revealed this week that Mark Henry offered to go on a tour with Hogan to colleges, and in a way to sort of inform colleges about what Hogan said, and just he's had 10 years to apologise for himself, and I don't think he has. And I think, as I said at the start, of him not really having a huge impact on Raw's history. Like, if you think about it from that angle rather than the more logical angle, he left WWF in late 92, around 1993, which is when Raw actually started. So if you think about the history of Raw, Hulk Hogan doesn't feature in it at all. Like, the people that, for me, made Raw what it is now are the likes of Shawn Michaels, the likes of the 1-2-3 Kid, Kevin Nash, guys that are no longer with us, like Scott Hall. Guys like Yokozuna, Bret Hart, who is still obviously alive, but he should be on like this show. Like, Bret Hart had far more impact on Raw than Hulk Hogan did. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, moments that will forever be shown in Raw's history, they weren't on this show. And yet this 72, 73-year-old man was. And he's not just a guy who, had a good history at WrestleMania. He's a guy that shouldn't really be promoted because of his personal and political beliefs. So the fact that he was on this show has sort of, his role in this show has overshadowed what could have been a really special show. Because if you think about it, a lot of the press after it wasn't, John Cena returning, The Rock returning. It wasn't talking about CM Punk's first televised match on Raw in over a decade. It was the fact that Hulk Hogan was on this show, did his usual shtick, and got booed. And he also mentioned people like Randy Savage and Andre the Giant, who are no longer here to actually defend themselves, to try and get a cheap pop by mentioning those two names. And also, like, saying that, neither Macho Man or Andre, I mean, Macho Man slightly, neither of them had, likewise with Hogan, a history on Raw. So what's the need of him being around on this show, other than to promote a beer that neither three of us knew about? And to be blunt, before Monday night when it was announced that they were going to be on the mat, no one else really knew what it was to do with. And I also feel sorry for Jimmy Hart, because I know that sounds really strange. And obviously, we don't really know what Jimmy Hart's personal and political beliefs are, because he's not done a Hogan and come out with his. Because let's face it, it's probably best not to.
Yeah.
In the modern era, where anything that you say can get picked up and repeated time and time again, it's safer just not to say anything at all. At times. But I feel bad for him, because obviously, he's been Hogan's goon for as long as I can remember.
Hogan's
where he walks out behind him and waves an American flag.
Yeah.
And I just think his legacy has also been tarnished because of being associated to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And there was obviously reports afterwards of, he could be brought back as a heel. No. Like, we don't need to see a 72-year-old, and to an extent, I also read something about Ric Flair possibly returning. I think, what impact do those two have in 2025 that could be taking away TV time to the younger talent? Like, I know I mentioned about Stone Cold possibly not being on this show, and granted, he could have taken up 10 minutes off Rhea and Liv. But I felt that the matches were so short in time as well, especially like the middle two, Jay Drew and Rhea Liv, to me never really got going. That
Yeah.
I would have rathered seen Hogan not being on the show at all, and you give a match like Rhea Liv that, yes, I've not been a massive fan of their rivalry, but it's still been a rivalry that's gone on for 8 months. Get another 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas what you've done is you've brought this guy out who I'm so happy he got booed because it like I know that's really strange, but I remember 3 years ago when the start of the allegations came out against Vince, and I was like thinking, oh, I really hope he doesn't appear on these shows again. He's done. Get him off TV. And he showed up on that SmackDown, and fans were foolish enough to cheer him.
Yeah.
And I just think how fickle.
Mm.
I mean, we're included. We are a wrestling audience. I talk about not liking Saudi Arabia, and yet I still watch shows from Saudi Arabia. So that doesn't make me much better than anyone else. But how fickle are wrestling fans? You've got a case where the owner of a company has been accused of sexual misconduct. He walks out, and everyone says thank you, Vince, and gives him a standing ovation.
Mm.
And I just think how insensitive is that to people that have been have been involved in misconduct cases. Yeah, how wrong is it of you to cheer a guy that has been accused of multiple indiscretions? So
Yes.
when Hogan was announced, I was like, they're going to cheer him. I had that horrible feeling of people cheering Hogan and him sort of coming out, doing his little shtick, little wave, brother, 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 done. How fantastic was it to see Hulk Hogan? So when he came out and got booed, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what you deserve.
So he did get, obviously we all know like he got booed and we know kind of why and all stuff like that. But I think it was CNN like covered it.
Yeah.
They were like, we should have known better. Are you on that side of it to be like, we should have known what was happening here? Do
I
you know?
mean, read the room.
Yeah.
You know, there's enough things online about Hulk Hogan's personal beliefs and what he has said in the past. To me, like you think about Mount Rushmores of wrestling, probably 30 years ago, Hogan was on it.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, he's etched himself off that board himself. He's done it. He has self-destructed himself.
Right. I did say this, like he's like kind of a parody of himself, isn't he? Do you
I
know what I
mean, he
mean?
doesn't go by Terry Bollea anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
People know him as Hulk Hogan.
his hair's not even real, for God's sake. His hair's plastic. What the Adam, have you got anything?
I mean, I agree with everything that Callum said, and I think I think this is one of those things where I find myself empathizing with Triple H so much in that he's the creative force behind the product that we see on TV, but he's not the be all end all when it comes to decisions that are made for the company.
Yes,
So
yeah,
I think there are things that he wants to put on TV and things that he will put on TV, but then I think there are things that he's told that he needs to put on TV.
mm,
So I think he was told that The Rock opens the show. I
yeah,
think he was told that Hulk Hogan needs to go on the show because the company have invested so much money into his beer and to promote it. But then I think as well, it's it's I mean, just to assume that it's Ari Emanuel, the guy who owns TKO, who's gone, we need as many eyes on this as possible, and let's announce Hulk Hogan for the show.
yeah,
Knowing that he's a big name, knowing that he's a household name, knowing that, let's face it, even if like now, if you were born after Mania 1 and all the sort of pomp and circumstance of all that, he's still a household name.
mm,
So you've got to pull people in that way. And I do think it's misguided that you've still put him on screen in an arena full of fans in a state that he was politically against
yeah,
just the past couple of months, and then never mind his discretions that he's done earlier to
mm,
not just people of colour, but people of colour in the industry that he's then there to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think it was a bit misguided, definitely. And the fact that some people seem to be surprised by the fact that he's been booed is one thing. The other thing that came out this week, which I think came more from Hogan's camp than anyone else's, is that apparently WWE sources were saying that they were then thinking about how to turn him heel. And it's
Yeah.
like, hang on a minute, you're 70 odd years old, you're not going to be on regular TV. Why are we putting brain power into making you turn heel?
Yeah, I think it's one of them where it's like, I think that may have been one of them where it's like, he was visually, you could see on his face, he was like, ah, shit.
Mm.
Like, and it shook him a bit, which it would, that's fair. You're not used to it, understandably. And like, he's a bit brain dead, isn't he? So he's one of them where it's like, oh, I'm Hulk Hogan. Everyone loves Hulk Hogan. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think they may have been a thing to appease him to be like, oh, yeah, you got booed there, but like maybe we could like look at it like a good thing. But that he's not getting booed, like he's not getting heat booed, like he's getting go home booed. You know what I mean? He's getting like this
We
isn't,
didn't ask for you, booed.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting, as I say, where like other people necessarily didn't get booed, like the Undertaker being one of them, maybe like because people were saying originally like, oh, it's just political views and blah blah blah. And I think Undertaker's got the same political views, uh, arguably. Um, and I think because he was there for a different reason, and I don't know, it just felt different.
It's
But
like Taker has his political views and Hogan has his political views. And at then point that you're surely saying that they're on similar ground. But then because he was then also Hogan was then also there to profit off himself.
yes, that's the thing, yeah. Is it
Yeah.
gonna be and Undertaker was there to get Rhea over,
Yeah. And to add
essentially.
to that moment
Yeah,
type
yeah.
thing.
So it's one of them where it's apples and oranges, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
But I do think as well with Undertaker, at least he was seen in less places showing his political views,
yes.
whereas Hulk Hogan was literally on ITV News ripping his t-shirt off at a Trump rally.
Yes.
So it's like you've got on the one hand you're like I'm going to show what I think politically, and then
Yeah.
you've got a I'm literally going to go out and advocate for this person. But again, like the thing that gets me is, and again, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but like I do question whether or not he actually believes in some of the things that he says, Hulk Hogan, or whether or
Oh,
not he saw it as a, well, I know that if I go and support this person, it gets my face on TV, and I've not been on TV in a while, and people need to
yeah.
remember me.
No,
So
well, right. So I don't know Hulk Hogan personally, as you say, but I know Hulk Hogan well enough to know that that if he went out and got booed and he was like, oh shit, should like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. And then news companies were talking about him on like the 6 o'clock news. He would have loved that. He'd be like, get on me, talking about Hulk Hogan on the
any
news.
publicity is good publicity.
100%. Like he's not an idiot. But it right, so this is probably the bit I'm gonna clip, right? So this is the thing that I have said before about somebody else, and I will say about Hulk Hogan. Um, my whole view on the whole Hulk Hogan situation is Hulk Hogan is a dude, and he's the real American, and he's like a champ, and he carries the flag, and I'll watch him wrestle, and I love it to bits, and throw me a leg drop, call me a brother, I'm all over it. Terry Bollea can go fuck himself. That's where my head goes. Like,
But to go
I
back a
know
second,
I know what you're gonna say. That these that Terry doesn't exist.
you've said that they are the same person,
No, they
or
are.
that Terry Bollea doesn't exist anymore.
Well, he doesn't, but he's got to somewhere, and he.
So,
So Hulk Hogan as a character, I'm all over. Like,
but I feel like you're all over like 80s Hogan
obviously,
of what he represented
but
then.
if you look at it, if you take out all of the crazy, manic, insane bullshit that Teddy Bollea has brought onto the Hulk Hogan character, Hulk Hogan's still sound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
When
Probably not for me and Adam, just
no, no,
because
no,
because of
but
our sort of age
okay,
I
sort of
know,
so
I know the
difference.
sentiment that you're getting at.
You
And
know
I
what I mean?
totally appreciate that. That it's like it's the person that's driving the bus who you had to take issue with rather than the bus itself.
Yes.
But it's like for me and Callum, like Callum was just about to say then, like my sort of first thing with Hulk Hogan was his return with the NWO around Mania 18 and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. And obviously, I've gone back and seen other stuff since then.
yeah.
But then seeing him as a public figure and like going through stuff like Hogan Knows Best, and then like when he did that like celebrity wrestling thing,
But
but then like
that's all Teddy, isn't it?
yeah. And he's using the Hulk Hogan name to get to that
Yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
then it's even thing I was thinking about this when he was on Raw. So I was like, he's the biggest hypocrite like ever in wrestling, right? Because at one point he's like, "Oh, I love the WWE, I love Vince McMahon. There's some money over here. Sorry, I'm going to WCW. I love WCW. I'll be there to the end. I'm never going back to WWF. WCW's going out of business. All right, I'm going back to WWF. Right, I was going back to WWF. I love WWF. I'm never going to leave. I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. Da, da, da. TNA might have some money for you. All right, I'm going. I'm going to TNA. Bye 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 bye. Bye. I'm never going back to WWF. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put Impact on Monday nights, and we're going to fight against WWF because it's a poison. We can't wait to do it there. Da, 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 da. WrestleMania 30. Do you want to appear with Rock and Stone Cold Steve? Oh yeah, I'm going. I'm going. I'm going. I'm going. I'm going, right? And it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back. And he's there to profit himself, and he got booed
Well,
because he was there to profit himself.
Hulk Hogan has never once said that he loved wrestling more than he loved money. All right. So all that's just money. Like it's all money, man. That's all it is. But it's like here's the thing, right, about Hulk Hogan is that, and I'm not defending him in any way. I'm not saying he's this or he's that. I understand where he's coming from, but the Hulk Hogan gimmick was gifted to him.
Mm.
And he's become this, as I say, he's a pure parody of himself. If he was standing one behind in the line, he could have been a fucking farmer.
Yeah. If
So,
Yeah.
Bushwhacker Luke was just in
yeah,
front of him,
you know what I mean? Like,
you
that's
know,
what, genuinely, like,
Hogan's coming out doing this,
yeah, that
you know.
it was a Kurt Angle who cut a promo in like 2002 or something and was like, Vince McMahon made you. If he wanted you to be a farmer, you would have been a farmer.
Yeah,
Like, Hulk Hogan would never exist. Only
yeah.
for the fact that Vince was like, I've had this idea, pal. Like, and that's that.
You're
So,
given this, you're bestowed
yeah,
this idea that we've had on. Yeah,
yeah. And he's absolutely ran with it. But it's one of them where it's like, Hulk Hogan, if you just look at Hulk Hogan in the WWE, and what he's done in WWE and WCW, I suppose, to a point, but just in WWE, there's no issue. But then obviously we're talking about eras and stuff like that. We're in this now Netflix era or the reality era where everyone can see what he's thinking at any moment because they can go on Twitter and he's a fucking idiot.
yeah.
Like that's the whole top and bottom. He's an absolute clown who happens to have long hair and a bandana and a handlebar moustache. And he's like, I'm working this gimmick, pal, or all that stuff.
Falling
And
in love, brother. HH.
that's it. So
Um,
then we
because then the other one that I thought of was like, did he not get like hundreds of millions of dollars in a Gawker lawsuit? So then
yeah,
at that point, I'm like, why do you even need to come on live TV and shill a beer?
yeah,
Just be an old man at home.
yeah, you can't
Like,
do that. Yeah,
no.
you
Like, I
can't.
understand working, right? And I feel like, genuinely, I feel like I'm going to be one of these people that works and works and works until I'm dust, right?
Yeah,
But then I feel like with him, like, you don't need to come on Raw to shill your beer. Just
yeah,
sell your beer in your beach shop like Clarkson sells his honey in Diddley Squat,
yeah,
right? You don't
yeah,
then need to come out and go, oh, look at real American beer and then rip your
yeah.
t shirt off. Like, no
I,
one needs to do that.
it is like so. We talked about this. I'm not a massive I'm not a Hulk Hogan super fan. Yeah, because it sounds like I am, and I'm like defending him to you. Like, oh, is this? He's a proper garbage human. Like, there's no two ways about it. But as a gimmick, like it worked for a long time, and he's just turned it into something that is utterly insane. Like, and he shouldn't have been there. I feel like it's one of the, like you were saying before, I feel like him being there is one of them things where it's like when they did the first Saudi show, like the first Saudi Rumble or whatever it was, the greatest show, the greatest Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
and Saudi Prince was like, can we have Macho Man? And it's just like, what?
Your cousin?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do this, we want this guy, and it's like,
Yeah.
They probably heard a Hulk Hogan promo recently where he mentioned Macho Man and Andre the Giant. I think, well, they must be still be
yeah,
going somewhere.
that's it. It's
He's
just
trying for a
like,
feud.
yeah. So I I don't want him back. That's not what I'm
No.
saying, all right? But I can go and watch WrestleMania 3 and be
Mm.
like, well, that's impressive. Do you know what I mean? In fact, it's not. It's bullshit because he's been slammed about 25 times. So the thing he has built his career on, slamming giants, everyone was doing it. So,
Hu-
you know,
Hulk Hogan should have stayed home alone whilst Macaulay Culkin was at the show. I mean, Macaulay Culkin got a bigger pop than most people. Going back
Huge
on,
pop for Kevin
going back
McAllister.
onto the people, like talking about the people that are actually in the audience as
yeah.
well. After the sort of year to 18 months that she's had, it was really nice to see Nikki Bella in the audience
Oh,
Yes,
it
it was.
as
wasn't.
well.
Fuck
Yes,
off.
it was.
No,
It
it
was
wasn't.
Why
You've
wasn't
been
like
chatting
it?
shit about that company for God knows how long, and then
no,
she
but
does
you can
a
under,
little
you
arse
could sort of
shave.
understand why.
I mean,
Like
I
her
can get it, but it's
stepfather.
like you've just called like it's like, oh yeah, he's a hypocrite because of this and all stuff, and he's doing it. So is she.
No,
Like,
right. As a sentimental thing of the fact that the issues that she's gone through personally, it was good to see her in a decent state and being on
right,
TV and
okay,
all
I'll
that
give you
kind of
that.
stuff.
Right,
Right?
That was the
Yeah,
angle
not a
that I was
sort of
going for.
political thing of like, oh, she said all this. I mean,
this is why I've still got
w
an issue with Punk. Like, I'm like, dude,
right. Well, that was exactly what I was about to say. That like, the people have said worse things and have come back for bigger things, but Hulk Hogan's just the ultimate whiny bitch.
Yeah,
Like,
I was going from the after like the last 18 months that she's had in her personal life. It was good to see her back
yeah, I'll
and
give you that.
looking happy.
Look,
and I'm surprised you fought back against that.
I'm a
She was your
huge
number
Nikki
one
Bella
Divas
fan.
champion. Like,
She's the greatest Divas champion ever. Like, there's no one who even comes close. She is the greatest Divas champion. That's not even a negotiable, right? Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Negotiable. It's not the right word. Anyway,
Non-negotiable.
yo, to say all the things she said and do all the things, it's one of them. Just like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean, her dad's allegedly assisted a shit on, so
a
her
dad.
dad,
Oh,
a
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stepfather.
stepfather.
I was like, what? What's a dad done? What have I missed? Yeah. Anyway,
Plus,
right.
John Cena's not won a singles match since he was engaged to Nikki Bella.
That's insane.
That surprised me that when he said 2,000 days, I was like, "What is
You know
that?"
what though? He's only had about 4 matches, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Like he
well,
hasn't.
yeah,
He's not doing a full run, is he?
Can we speak about the promo from
Yeah.
Cena?
yeah.
Can't quickly.
Obviously, like the self-doubt and self-confidence issues that he came across during that promo was really good because you talk about parodies. John Cena over like the last few years since the whole Firefly Funhouse match, because of the way his appearance has been quite sporadic, he's not felt like the big deal that he should be feeling. Like to think that his last WrestleMania main event was the one against The Rock at WrestleMania 29. The Rock has had a more recent WrestleMania main event than John Cena.
Hmm.
Um, it's nuts to think about. And I think about this upcoming WrestleMania, and obviously it seems like after the promo that we got from The Rock and all of the reports, he probably isn't going to be there. And I think good because this WrestleMania should be all about John Cena.
Mhm.
20 years since he won his first world title, going for a record breaking title win and going for equaling Stone Cold's Rumble record. I just think the narrative is right there. And it'll be a real waste if he actually doesn't win the Rumble. If they drag it out longer to Chamber, not just because Chamber was rumored to happen in the UK. Like, I've got that horrible image in my head that Elimination Chamber in Alan's Alan's home country of
Yeah.
Canada is going to see CM Punk and John Cena as the final two participants of Elimination Chamber, which will make me sulk. But this being the first PLE on Netflix, it ending with John Cena winning, and then WrestleMania Night 2 being John Cena winning the world title, it feels so simple and yet so effective at the same time. And the way that he started the promo of I don't know, guys, like I just thought I was just gonna go to the Royal Rumble and just do the You Can't See Me and that's it. But what if I won a Money in the Bank? What if I won Elimination Chamber? Hang on, I could win the Royal Rumble. And the way that he got that crowd behind him was just ridiculous. Because, like, yes, it's Cena. Yes, the crowd like him. I mean, the crowd 15 years ago were bored of him.
Yeah.
But the way that he got everyone into the story, and there's so few people now who can do a promo by themselves without it being a face-to-face promo like we saw the week prior with Punk and Rollins,
Yeah.
who can do a promo by themselves without idiots in the crowd chanting what. Like, Cena and Rock had every fan in the palm of their hands throughout both of their promos. And it's so rare to see that in the modern age. So the way that he sort of got them there to that final point of like, and I might win the world title at WrestleMania, just outstanding. Like, one of the best, one-hander promos I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah. Out of interest, who did you put as who'd interrupt him?
Logan Paul.
I put Finn Balor
Ooh, I put
because I
Logan.
was trying to think of like a big enough person
Yeah.
and assume that they'd moved away from the feud and all that kind of stuff. But
Interesting. Finn would be good. But yeah. And there you go. Before we wrap this up, um, Callum, was Punk Rollins as good as you thought it'd be?
It was like, and I'll probably get the teams wrong. It was like when Bart and Lisa faced each other in Lisa on Ice episode in Simpsons, where I was like the homer. I was like, "Hey, I just got a call from a poo. It turns out that CM Punk and Seth Rollins are fighting each other. I don't expect it to be easy. I want you to fight. Fight for your father's love." And I was there Monday evening, flicking the light switch, shouting, "Fight, fight, 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 fight." And I love Punk. I love Rollins. You're going to clip that bit now, so I shouldn't have said that.
I
um,
don't. I'll be honest. I didn't think it was that good. Like it wasn't. It didn't blow my mind that match. I was expecting so much more.
I
I,
feel like it's a mere appetized tease for
for what's
a,
left to come.
a bigger one further down the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. If you Callum, if you were giving it a rating, what would you give it?
I mean, Dave Meltzer gave Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd 5.5 stars. Now, I've not seen that match, but I have seen Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. So, yeah, I saw someone in red shoes. Who people in Japan could have been watching this on Netflix. So I'm going to give this 6.5 stars.
Okay.
No, I will give it 4 stars.
Okay. All right. Well, I think four is generous, but I can understand why you're giving it four. Know what I mean? I didn't get onto it, but I've seen like on socials that Punk was like check on him, was check on
Mm,
Rollins. I seen
yeah.
that and I thought that was quite a classy thing to do.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know why, but
mm.
there you go. Anything else you would like to add? Um, we've done it again. We've just chatted on about. We didn't get to anything else. Um,
I'm just going to call this episode Netflix and Phil, so it's fine.
Netflix and Phil, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up? No.
No.
Anything else? No. We're all
Mm.
good. Said enough. Fuck Teddy Black.
That's the hashtag, isn't it?
Should have been a fucking farmer. Fucking Teddy. Hopefully we won't see him again, like in the near future. I can't see him making the new NWO out of someone and it being the guy. But they've got what's the guy who's with Legion of Doom? Who's that? Paul
Paul Ellering.
Oh,
He's like a kex. He's about 86. You know what I mean? Um yeah, there you go. I don't think there's anything. I'm trying to think if there's anything to add. There isn't. You know. Yeah, right. Follow us, like us, all that shit. Um, SLTD Wrestling, wherever you do your socials with it. And we will catch you next time. Bye.